Good evening. And good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is WeatherBrains episode number 958. I mean, we're closing in on 1,000 here. We still haven't come up with a firm plan on how we're going to do show 1,000, but it needs to be clearly live at a central location. We're all together. Yeah, we need to start thinking about that. But whatever. This is for Tuesday. It's a Tuesday night special. We had Memorial Day yesterday, so we're doing it on Tuesday, May the 28th, days away from the beginning of meteorological summer and the beginning of the Atlantic hurricane season, which is Saturday. For those that don't know, this is the pre-show. This is the magical, marvelous part of the program where we do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time we say very outrageous things. Yes, indeed. We'll come up with. I have all kind of outrageous things I could say this week, but I'll try and be nice. Coming off another round of very active weather, including tornadoes in parts of Texas and Oklahoma, and had a few little issues down here in our part of the world. Oh yeah, Becket, can you hear us? Okay. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. Talk to us. We'll see if we can hear you.
Testing one, two. Testing one, two.
Oh, yeah. 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 Got that green curtain back there. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I figured he would turn it into something, so that's a nice thing about having a green curtain. You can turn it into anything you want.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have one in this closet back here. This is my closet. All right, let's see here. It's weird being on Tuesday. I feel like I have not done something, and I'll figure out what it is I didn't do when it doesn't happen. So there you go. Becket, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
All right, feeling pretty
Had
good.
y'all met before, James? Had you and Becket
He
met?
came all the way up to a place called DeKalb, Illinois. That's a long haul. And I was overly impressed. So we met in a Chicago suburb earlier this year.
Yes.
And boy, all those college girls loved him. He was a babe magnet. It was almost disgusting, So I have
Well, he
learned that
doesn't
about
use
this
Axe
guy.
body spray, James. That's his secret.
No, that's true. And Becket, never, ever, ever use Axe. It's
Yes.
basically a sewage. It's a sewage treatment plant. It's like a cesspool. It's not good.
Yeah.
And all these guys, they think it's love nectar. Like the girl's just going to love them. No, they run. They run as far as they can. So he did not have any Axe.
No.
He might have been wearing some Old Spice or something. I don't know, but. Bill, the only one that worked for me was High Karate. Remember?
Oh yeah,
High
especially
Karate.
what was it, the lime version? I can't even imagine that we wore that.
If you want some good laughs, go to YouTube and search High Karate and look for those old commercials.
Yeah,
they are. This was from the 1970s, and it's just like you can't make this stuff up. And it probably was just as bad as Axe.
It was. I think mine was something called English leather. That right there tells you all you need to know.
Oh yeah, there was one called Brute, Brut.
Oh yeah,
which was really nasty. We were in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I can't tell this story. I just can't do it. But it involved Brute, and it was bad. In fact, I don't know. I must have been in a moment of insanity, but I actually think it's in the book, Weathering Life. And I'm not here to sell books. I don't even know why I put that in there, but I had a bad incident in Daytona Beach involving Brute in 1976, and I'll just leave it at that. So there.
I was going to challenge you tonight to tell a story about the May 27th, 1973 tornado that you've never told.
Well,
that comes up every year, and I was trying to think of one for me.
That was quite a night. It's like the song December 1963. For some of us, it was May 27th, 1973. Um, oh, good. We got James A. on the line here.
I've been watching a lot of James A. the last 2 weeks.
We can
little too much.
We can discuss the weather situation.
Talk about
Gosh,
Claremore.
the Fort Worth Star Telegram, their big headline yesterday: sirens failed. There was no warning. This is for the storm that hit Valley View, which is north of Fort Worth. And of course, the warning was absolutely excellent. 40 minutes lead time. 40 minutes.
I knew an hour before it got there that it was going to hit Valley View, and I was in Birmingham, Alabama.
That's all they know to print. It's struck without warning. It's unprecedented. It's never happened before. It's like they have a script, and it doesn't matter what the truth is. It doesn't matter. They're going to say the same thing. It struck without warning. And, fine, let's debate. Come on our show. I think we ought to get these jamokes that wrote that and bring them on the show and ask them. And I can't get a good answer from these journalists. Why do you do this? And, I got into a big fight with Diane Sawyer because she, of course, came on ABC News. Here's what she said: rare tornado strikes Alabama with no warning. Number one, here's an idea. Tornadoes aren't rare here. Number two, the lead time in that case was 32 minutes. And so you made it up. You just lied. And I'm not saying you wrote that, but somebody wrote it and you read it and it's got your name on it. And so let's debate. You come on my show, I'll come on your show. And I will say that to their credit, that the one of the correspondents involved in it, he called to apologize that day. And but I never heard from her. So and I don't think she does the news anymore, but maybe we ought to get her on this show and have our debate from 2012 that never happened. Notice Beckett's about to hang up on us. He's going to run. he sees me getting cranky.
No.
And we have our social scientist on here, so we can talk to her about it.
I just turned on Wheel of Fortune thinking you might have the basketball game tonight, James. I hadn't watched Wheel of Fortune in 20 years. And you know what the clue was?
What?
Television meteorologist. That's gotta be fate, right?
Wow.
I watched it in 20 years and it's the one term near and dear to my heart.
You know what's funny? That is the highest rated program on local television is Wheel of Fortune. Other than, if you take out college football when the, local teams are playing on a regular basis on linear television, that's about the only show people still watch with any numbers. And it's good for us because, we do a newscast going into it, which helps our, 6 o'clock news numbers. But that once you hit prime time, the glory days of network television, those things that do just tremendous ratings and shares. And now you look at all the nets, ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, they're doing 0.5s, 1s. The days of linear television have passed us by years ago. And I'm saying this before we hit local television because we're about to go on local television here in 50 seconds. All right. So now, Beckett, if you need to run, this is your last chance. Last chance to hang up, run, call 911, whatever. Because we're about to start this sucker. We have to wait until the top of the hour when the TV joins us. And I got a response back from Master Control that they know we're doing the show on Tuesday this week. So, but yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Hey, Jen, did you send me any audio, by the way, this week?
No, I'm discombobulated. I don't know what day it is. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure I didn't want to be sure I didn't want to miss something here.
It's me.
Do we have Tony?
Okay. Yes, we have Tony. So welcome to the television viewers watching on our Weather Channel locally here. It's a Tuesday night WeatherBrains special. The gang is gathering the night after Memorial Day. So let's get this thing a-rolling here. We're going to record track 1. We're going to record track 2, and here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You've heard James say it a million times. Respect the polygon. At Weather Call, we call, text, and email you when you're in the polygon. So in a way, we make the polygon better. With solutions for personal use, businesses, schools, pools, playgrounds, and RVs, there's a weather call solution that's right for you. Check us out at weathercallservices.com.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
All right. I guess we are. If Bill Curtis says it. This is Weather Brains episode number 958, the weekly show that's all about weather, the oldest weather podcast in the universe. We're rapidly approaching show 1,000 here. We really need to think about what we're going to do. We started this show back in January of 06. So how about that? 18 years old here. But let's go to Oklahoma. I would assume that Rick will not be on the show. James ate a lot, and that he's going to be doing storm surveys until 2027. So how have you come through all of this? You doing okay?
Yeah, just trying to catch up on sleep at this point. It's been a absolutely harrowing May, and I'm thankful it wasn't worse than it was so far.
Yeah, and let's go to Kim. Kim, have you survived the storms? To tell us of how it's been from your end there.
Same thing. It's been exhausting, but so many things could have gone worse this season than have so far. So we're just going to count our blessings, take some naps. I'm also feeling discombobulated. So I saw Oklahoma James after Jen said she was discombobulated. He said, "Well, you're going to prepare to be recombobulated." I'm going to hold you to that. Recombobulate us. Okay, James.
I think a good show title is Count Our Blessings, Take Our Naps. That's good advice for anybody, I think, in the weather enterprise. Let's go up north to Jen Naramore. Jen, you got any sleep? You doing okay?
I'm doing all right. That's a perfect show title. I think it's how we're all feeling. It's just been what was the post this morning? Over 1,900 tornado warnings and counting in 2024 so far. I mean, it's been brutal. And so I think we're all ready for just a small breather here, but okay up here. It's gorgeous up here. Highs tomorrow in the 60s. So I know it's been really great though. And I think we hit 70 Thursday. So I'm looking forward to this small break up here before we get a little bit more rain, but yeah, doing good here in Tornado Talk land.
Hey, you want to hear my Kim-like moment?
Go.
Yeah.
So had a roofer inspect my roof after we had golf balls to baseballs, and he said, "Oh yeah, claim this one." Like, oh
no.
Yay.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Wow.
I'm a little worried about roofers, because they do carry shingles.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't even have the button. Wow.
Just take your vaccine, James.
So I was doing live stuff all night, Sunday night, early yesterday. I stayed on for like hours, and toward the end of it, we had a hurricane force wind gust come through our neighborhood. All of us here at WeatherBrains, we have these storm stories about what's happened at our home. So we had a tornado hit the house in 2021. This was March 25th. So in a way, you have to look at the positives in that we don't have hardly any trees left right near the house. They all came down on the house. So, but what remaining trees we have, they went down yesterday morning, about 6 o'clock. So that was a hoot. And of course, no power. But listen, again, I will never complain. We had no trees on the house. The power came back on after about maybe 10 hours, which is amazing to me. So, but I think we're all ready for maybe a stretch of calmer weather here. Is that Bruce Jones I see on here? Bruce?
Yeah,
welcome.
Bruce.
Yes.
In early.
Yeah.
Are you at the
Hello,
Texas
guys.
Emergency Managers Conference too?
I
Rick
am.
checked in and said he's there. He said to say hello. So.
Oh, hey, Rick. I'll see you tomorrow, I guess.
Awesome. Well, Bill Murray, let's start the show. Let's bring in our guest. Let's go.
Yeah, James. Tonight's guest, WeatherBrain, is a 14-year-old weather enthusiast from St. Louis who has been interviewed on the Weather Channel and Fox Weather, and he's gone viral. He's active on X at Moore WX. That's MOORE WX official, and YouTube. And he focuses on severe weather forecasts and covering severe weather all over the country. He covered this past weekend's event in Texas and Oklahoma. Very impressive. Becket Moore, I met you in Kansas City at the National Weather Association. Rick Smith wanted me to meet you, and I'm glad I did. I saw you again at Mississippi State. I know you met James. It's nice to have you with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Well, we're all kind of envious of you because you know what you want to do and you're getting an early start on it, and we're really all very, very impressed with you. Talk about how you got interested in weather to start. Did it start out as a fear or a fascination or what? How did it happen?
It was definitely a fascination in snowstorms. Snowstorms with all meteorology is definitely my favorite type of storms, and we get those often in St. Louis. About one big snowstorm per year, and just tracking those starting around 7 to 8 years old, watching the Weather Channel, my local meteorologist. I just got really interested in that, and then my passion for it grew from there.
Well, of course, snowstorms have a negative impact, but they're one of the least impactful, it seems
Yes.
like, to me, in terms of bad weather, as long as they don't get too out of control. I'm the same way as you. Give me a good snowstorm anytime. And as our old associate JB Elliott used to say, he was like a fan of subsidence. And we get that after events like we've gone through here in May. We're all a fan of subsidence. But for me, snow has always been my favorite weather phenomenon too. So I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you answered that question right there. So when did it all start for you? What age were you?
I think probably around 7 or 8, 9 years old. That's when I really started getting interested in it.
So how did you foster that interest early? I know both of your parents are actively involved in your interests, carrying you to these events, and I congratulate them for that. I got to meet your dad in Mississippi at Starkville. I got to meet your mom in Kansas City, and it was obvious they play an important role in what you're doing because they seem to be very supportive of it. When did they figure out that this was, something that they really needed to help, push you toward?
Yeah, absolutely. They're my biggest supporters, and I say about 2 years ago when I really started getting into it, they kind of figured out this is like my interest in what I want to do.
Well, we're always excited when we go to these conferences to talk to students, and it's usually college students. To see someone who's 14, the eighth grade, you just graduated there. They think, well, you should be, worried about baseball or girls or something, along those lines. And it's very, very refreshing to see. I was just like you in 1976. My only difference was that 2 years before, I was still petrified of tornadoes, to a phobic point where, I didn't make good decisions. Luckily, I had a mom who was into the weather, and she knew when to say those dreaded words, kids, put your shoes on, long before we even figured out the safety rules. That's when we knew it was getting serious, when she said, put your shoes on. And the night of April 3rd, 1974 changed all that for me. It went from a fear to a fascination. But I started asking my parents to take me to our local weather office. Birmingham was on 11 West Oxmoor Road. And, I got to meet a lot of the great meteorologists there, J.B. Elliott and Jay Shelley. And James, how about Harold Quattlebaum? Do you remember Harold Quattlebaum? He was
HQ,
he was
the
a character.
Pink Panther, the Pink Panther. Yes.
But I spent a lot of my Saturdays at the Weather Service from 9 in the morning till 5 at night. And, just learning and watching. Have you gotten to spend time at the Weather Service in St. Louis or other weather offices?
Yes, I have visited there, and it was definitely a great opportunity to go listen to their things, tour the office. Is really cool.
Yeah, that's really important. So are you already thinking about what you're going to do in high school now? Do you have any classes, any sort of concentrations that you're going to be able to do in high school that will help you, move toward perhaps pursuing this more deeply in college and beyond?
Yeah, I don't think there are any classes at my high school, but I'm thinking of maybe getting involved in the broadcast aspect. They have kind of a student-run channel there, so I'm thinking of getting involved in that.
Yeah, well, now they'll have a meteorologist. So, You can be the official forecaster for the prom when the prom comes around, and all the other events that happen for sure. So, meeting you at one of these conferences was a really cool thing. What did you get out of that? And talk to other kids out there who might be, middle school, high school, interested like we are. We're, probably gaining these folks every one of these events that we go through.
Yeah, it's definitely really great to go to all these conferences because from my experience, I've learned so much. And also the networking, just getting to meet people has just been an awesome experience. And you can't stop learning. And there's so much you can learn at these conferences.
Well, I know you got to go up and meet James, who, I'm sure you look up to a lot. Are there other folks that are memorable to you that you've gotten to meet and that you go to sleep every night thinking, wow, I got to do that?
Yeah, of course, James, and then those at the Weather Channel, such as Jim Cantori, Mike Bettis, Reed Timmer's a big one, and then my local meteorologist as well.
Yeah, who's your favorite meteorologist there in St. Louis? Nobody's watching this outside of our little group right here, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Don't believe him. Don't believe him.
Steve Templeton's probably my favorite.
Oh wow, yeah, we're kind of fond of Steve too.
Yeah,
he was
he's
a big
great.
help.
I got to spend like 2 days with Templeton. Bill Murray. This was a great trade. So the general manager at Channel 4 in St. Louis, he said, "I'll trade you some good Cardinals baseball tickets in exchange for a kind of a sit down time with Steve and his weather team for a couple of days." So I traded Cardinals tickets for little weather session up there. It was great. Steve was great. Got a great heart, good communicator. I like him a lot. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and Murph, a great GM too. And when we did our weather fest there in 2018, did you get to come to that, Becket, back then, or was that before you were really deep into it?
No, I did not know that was happening back then.
I think that was one of our best ones, and Steve and the team there at their television station was really critical in making that a big success. What I mainly remember about it, it was about 950 degrees.
I remember the mobile home session. Did you go to that one, Bill? So all these people in there were looking at me, knowing if anybody's going to say anything, it's me, because they were basically telling us they wanted all of us to tell people that mobile homes are perfectly safe during tornadoes, and nobody had the guts to say anything. And so I finally just said, "All right, stop the mumbo jumbo. Just stop it. Just stop, stop, stop." And of course, all these memes came up after that. But that was the St. Louis meeting that you're talking about. So you look for the "stop the mumbo jumbo" meme, and that was St. Louis.
Yeah, James Hayes over there right now working on the merch. He's designing the new T-shirt that we're going to have. Stop the mumbo jumbo for sure. That is for sure. Well, take us back to Saturday. I know you did some broadcasting on YouTube in the afternoon, Becket, and I don't know if you went all the way through the events in North Texas Saturday evening. I'll have to go back and watch those. But I think we were all sort of petrified looking at that tornadic storm as it was approaching I-35, looking at all those RV camps that were all around the lake there. And it did do a lot of destruction and cause some deaths too. How did it go for you on Saturday? Did you learn a lot doing that? Was that the first time you've been live, or have you done that multiple times before?
Yeah, I've been live a couple times, but that was definitely a very scary situation there in Texas. Thankfully, though, we didn't have as big of an outbreak as we expected, but still, every tornado is definitely something to take seriously, and that was very scary for sure.
Well, I think I have probably stopped at that gas station in Sanger a few times, and on the way between Oklahoma and Dallas, and I just was feeling it as it went through there. It really, really hurt. We were happy that our folks in Ardmore, they've been so battered this year too. Early we were beginning to tell them, you're going to be okay. As the storm started to form and sort of go to the south. But, those polyons were encroaching on Ardmore there for a little bit, and it was making me nervous. And then, a lot of the communities in southern Kentucky that were hit in December, what was it, Kim, 2021? Or was it 2022? When Mayfield was hit. Mm-hmm. It's hard to believe.
Some of the exact same communities were right in that path.
Right. And
Mhm.
we were just finishing a movie, and I looked down and saw that it was 45 minutes out from Madisonville, and we put all of our hotels on alert there because there was a good chance it could have come to them, and it was just 4 miles south of Madisonville. So yeah. So what have been your most memorable experiences so far to date, Beckett? What's most memorable for you through all this little journey that you started on?
I would say my most memorable experience so far was when I went with my dad to Chicago and Michigan this last January to cover the snow there. There's like going to be a big snowstorm there. Forecast was around 10 inches, ended up only being around 2 inches. So then we ended up actually driving to Michigan to cover the lake effect snow too. And that was just really fun. And since I love snow so much, I was like in heaven doing that. It was so fun.
Did you get to see any thunder snow like Jim Cantori?
Yes, there was thunder snow. It was awesome. My first time. So cool.
It's James A. Are you giving a thumbs down to thunder snow? What are you doing?
I give the thumbs down to any time water falls out of the sky in a frozen state. It's never good.
James A., take us back to talking about live. I wanted to get into that a little more deeply too.
Hey, Beckett, I was a little bit busy Saturday night too, so I didn't get a chance to jump in. Tell me what you use when you're doing lives. What software? What radar? Just describe your setup and how you get this thing going every time.
Yeah, so I use OBS Studio for doing the live stream, and then Gibson Ridge radar, and then this green screen behind me is usually over there. But yeah, I use the green screen, so all of that together makes makes the live stream.
Yeah, OBS is something. It is amazing.
For sure.
Yeah, I was going to say your green screen is really smooth. Your
Thank you.
images on YouTube were perfect. So your lighting must be very, very good, Beckett. And I want to get back more to
hang
that.
on. Let's talk about the audio and the video here. I mean, I got more questions here.
Yeah, go,
what kind of
James.
what kind of camera are you using?
I just use a normal webcam, so yeah.
Well, now, is someone helping you in the background, or were you running the whole show on your radar with your chat and everything? Because you were doing a great job. There's a lot of towns in North Texas that are hard to pronounce. We're going to put James Spann on the spot. We have a town in South Alabama, James, called McGargle. Is that the same way they say it in Texas, that town right there, southeast of Abilene or so? Is that it, James A.? Is it McGargle?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Well, one Ryan Hall was having a hard time saying that town on Saturday afternoon, and I thought,
how do you know about McGargle, Alabama? That's disturbing. That's way down there in Monroe. That's down on the other end of the state.
That's L.A.
Yeah, lower Alabama. James, keep going.
Wow. Yeah, so audio. What kind of mic you using here?
I just use a lab mic for my lives, and then just a normal mic. I don't even know what you call it, but normal mic for these type of things.
Probably
And
works
what about
better
the
than
lighting?
ours.
Yeah. What kind of lighting you got there?
I have a couple lights. I don't know exactly what they're called, but yeah, I have about 4 lights. Yeah.
Okay, because again, I just think this is outstanding. Goodness, if I was your age and if we had this available when I was your age,
Absolutely.
and I think and what is so cool about this guy, he's responsible. He's doing it right. His information is good. His communication is good. When I was that age, I sounded like, some redneck from rural South Alabama, which I am. But I would be scared to death. I'm not capable of doing that at that age. But I think it's wonderful to see you setting a really good example of how to do it right. Technically it looks great and the information is good. So it's just a really good thing, Bill Murray. I'm always encouraged to see, this from the next generation. I think they're going to be. Imagine when this guy's, 10 years from now, what's he going to be doing? He's just going to be good.
We're going to get into that. James A., did you have anything else you wanted to ask about the live? I know Kim has something she wants to ask.
No, that covered it all. I was just kind of curious about hardware, software setups because
see, we're trying to steal the information from him here, so we can use it. This guy looks so good. We want to look that good.
Yeah, don't do any of those behind the scenes videos, Beckett. We're gonna all steal from you. So Kim, you jump into the fray here.
Yeah, so they're asking all about the technology, and I'm interested in the technique. So I'm also interested in just how you came to this as something he wanted to do, you know? So it's a very particular way of talking about the weather. And so just tell us a little bit about what motivated you to try out this space, to get into this space. And James talked all glowingly about how you're doing it right. You had to have made some decisions about what you wanted to cover and how you wanted to cover it. You know, you have to put thought into that stuff before you go on air. You can't just go and start talking about whatever. You have to have some kind of a strategy. So we've talked on this show all the time about how Gen Z is going to show us the way with these new technologies. I'd love to know what's motivated you and what's in your head as you're crafting this.
Yeah, so back when I was probably 8 to 9 years old, 10 years old, I watched a ton of the Weather Channel. And when I was seeing those meteorologists up there, I was like, I want to do that. And then, my first video was just in my parents' bedroom with their TV, and I had a weather app pulled up and I really liked it. So I just went from there, and live broadcasts, I really wanted to do that as well. So I'm just loving doing it. And ever since I've gotten into weather, broadcast is really what I've wanted to do.
So this was a mechanism to get into broadcast. In some ways, you're sort of practicing the craft. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, the way you're doing it. You're getting feedback from followers. Are you learning as you're going about things that are working and developing yourself almost as a professional while in high school, just barely going into high school?
Yeah, for sure. I learned, is this the right way to say this, or what does this mean? And should I say this, or things like that, things I should do and not do when I'm live or doing recordings. And if you look back at, my first videos, I've definitely grown a lot better knowledge and my technique to today.
Well, that's really inspiring, your motivation and going to be in broadcast. We've talked a lot on this show about how the broadcast landscape is changing. And by participating in this method, where anyone, including a 14-year-old, can create a weather studio and communicate, you're really on the forefront, the cutting edge of where broadcast may be going in some ways. What are you thinking your career might look like from here?
Yeah, I definitely have seen that broadcast has been changing, maybe going away from cable, but I think social media is definitely the future. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Definitely going to be seeing some changes though in the future, I think.
And Beckett, talk to us about how you've learned as much as you have. Are there any books or, videos or anything that you've done? Obviously, you've watched a lot of other meteorologists do it, but you are really well grounded already in some of your terminology and using that Gibson Ridge radar. Are you using 2 or 3 on Saturday? It looked like it was 2. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Because you're showing some great stuff on there, correlation coefficient. You seem to have your cities and your locations, a good size for your video screen. They're readable. And I enjoyed listening to you talk about all of that. That was pretty fascinating. So what have been your sources for learning so far? And then Jen Naremore's got tons of questions she wants to ask, so she'll be next.
I would say the main thing is watching other meteorologists and learning from them, learning from, how they're saying things, learning when I'm watching their lives and, what's that on radar? There's a hook, there's rotation, there's maybe a debris ball. And then books as well. I've read both of James' books, and I just continue to read more meteorology books.
Well, that is outstanding. Jen Naremore, you jump in for a little bit.
Becca, I just think you're great and you're so articulate. I mean, you're really, and you have a calming presence. I mean, do you get nervous when you're talking to all these folks and you're trying to get this information out? Do you get nervous?
Yeah, I get a little bit nervous, definitely not as nervous as I used to be, but still a little bit every time, especially when I'm live.
Yeah. And so you're covering, obviously you did some Texas stuff. So you're not just covering St. Louis. So you're going outside, and is your goal to try to cover as many mainly severe weather events or tornado events? What is your goal when you get on the air?
Pretty much everything, it depends which season. So I'll be covering maybe some tornadoes in April and then snowstorms in January, hurricanes in September.
And do you have a bedtime that you're not allowed to do some of these nighttime events?
Yeah,
I'm
so
picking on you.
thankfully, usually these events happen, Friday night or Saturday night. So I can be up till 10-ish, but usually it hasn't lasted that long, so that's good.
That's good. Yeah, because some of these can go all night long. But yeah, I got interested in, like most of us did, got interested in doing weather at a young age. I was 12 and was getting myself up at 4 or 5 in the morning to track hurricanes, and was watching Jim Cantori when he had hair, and it was a long time ago. And I love your enthusiasm. And what's advice that you would want to give to kids who are your age and are, because you're pretty much self-taught, you're just absorbing all the information. But what's some advice that you would give to kids your age to try to just pursue this, whether it's weather or any of their dreams?
Yeah, I would say just keep pursuing your dreams and keep improving at what you're doing.
Very good. James A., you're following some heavy hitters here, so no pressure.
Absolutely. But let's take this opportunity to start a Met fight. So
I like it. I like a brawl. We need a brawl on this show. This is good.
Let's get ready to rumble. Which Met school are you looking at going to?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have looked at OU and Mississippi State. Those are the two that I've looked at. And then I'm actually going to a Penn State weather camp here in the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
So I'm really excited for that.
Yes. I'm a happy person.
That's pretty
Now,
good.
which one of those is best.
I'm guessing OU.
There's no guessing about it.
Well,
Becket, it's Bruce Jones talking sense to you here, young man. You just need to drive down Interstate 70. Go west on I-70.
Okay. Yeah, Mizzou.
Yeah.
go to Columbia,
Mizzou.
huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
We have a really good program there. Very good program.
Well, Kim touched on the importance of strategy going into a broadcast, Becket. So walk through your process, for creating a forecast video for your YouTube audience.
Yeah, so first I make the graphics looking at the models and then transport that data into graphics and put that in Google Slides and explain the graphics in a way that I hope my audience can understand.
Well, you were doing that on Saturday with some soundings. You took that 21Z sounding from Norman and walked through it, and I thought that was pretty brave. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Have you learned a lot about soundings?
Yes, for sure. At the start of me getting into weather, I didn't even know what that really meant. Going to these conferences, learning more about photographs and things like that, I've really started to understand what the things on there mean.
So who have been some of your other role models? Obviously, James, and you talked about Steve Templeton. Anybody else on the internet been a role model for you?
Reed Timmer for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you. He was on top of that storm, the early tornado on Saturday afternoon, and you kept an eye on that. But you didn't use his video. Do you and Reed have an arrangement, or do you just describe what you're seeing on his feed? Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. I know there was a picture of you on your social media. What social media platforms are you active on?
I'm on Twitter or X and then YouTube. Those are my two main ones.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Kim referred to feedback from your audience. I noticed you had a couple of dedicated viewers who were in there, and that's when it gets really fun. It sort of builds on itself when you've got those people who can kind of be your eyes and ears. It's hard when you're on the wall the entire time, and sometimes they see things that you might not have picked up on. But you were pretty tight on that radar. You were watching a lot of stuff that was going on there in North Texas for sure.
Yeah, I love my viewers and the feedback for sure, especially there on the live, like you mentioned in the chat, them pointing out things that maybe I haven't seen yet. So that's very helpful.
Yeah, James A's already got it. He's 100% on puns over here. His knowledge of soundings has ballooned, Becket, so he'll probably be tuning in to learn. From you now, talk about some other weather history. Missouri's got its share of bad events that have happened. Talk about some of the ones you've gone back and studied, Beckett, in past history.
Yeah, so we had a pretty big snowstorm, about a foot. Biggest snowstorm I think I've ever seen in St. Louis back in 2018, I think. So that was something I was really interested. That was maybe the second snowstorm that I started to that started to get me really interested in meteorology and started getting me really interested in tracking the weather. And then I mean, just this season as well, we've had a ton of tornadoes. Usually in St. Louis, we get weaker tornadoes with QLCS lines coming through. So a lot of those as well, I've gone back and looked at as well.
So I've got to ask, are you familiar with the historic tornadoes that have hit St. Louis? Like the more than a handful of years back, historic.
Yeah, I think we've had an EF4 in St. Louis, and then I think we had an EF3 in back a good amount of years ago, back I think 2011 or that actually went through the airport.
Yeah. It sort of hurts my heart that you probably think this is actually ancient history going back to the last century, the 1900s, the 20th century. Oh my God. Well, I'm going to just go ahead and become an aged person, and if you haven't looked at these events, I know that the Missouri Historical Society has some really interesting materials on a couple, in part because another St. Louis resident, Harold Brooks, works at the National Severe Storms Lab and has a real penchant for history. So we've actually bothered those folks to get materials about, there was a big tornado that destroyed downtown, retrospectively would have been an F5. And it was 1927, 1936. They had a big one go through in 1897 or 96. It was
96.
Like
96. Damaged the Eads Bridge, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was the year before they had the World's Fair, right? It destroyed downtown, and then they had the World's Fair where like electricity was introduced for the first time. It was an astronomically important event for the time and for the area. St. Louis, it just has a lot happen to it, more than people think, and it can have the worst of tornadoes and the worst of earthquakes. The downtown has actually been destroyed by tornadoes several times in its early development history. And it happened at a time that was pretty important for urban development, that it was getting hit over and over again. It's part of why it's what, Jefferson Park that the monument is in. They had to rebuild the whole thing after the City Beautiful movement started because of all these tornadoes that kept reorganizing downtown. So there's some really neat stuff. You have quite a weather history and weather lineage.
Where's Harold Brooks when you need him? He knows all this stuff.
Oh gosh, yeah. If anyone
had
thought
him on tonight too.
on you was interesting, Harold could go on for hours. You very much so.
Well, hey Kim.
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
It's Bruce Jones. So last week I gave a presentation and mentioned the May 27th, 1896 tornado. It removed 860 tons of material off the Eads Bridge. 860 tons of steel and limestone was blown off the top of the Eads Bridge by that tornado.
Everything that exists suggests that was just one of the high-end tornadoes for sure of what we would have seen historically. And I mean, that's just incredible to imagine. And I mean, that's a pretty significant bridge too.
It's a big one.
For the time. Yeah. I always wonder when I go through St. Louis, I always look on that arch and I just think, oh, I just hope you're going to be okay. Tornadoes have gone right through there.
Yep.
Beckett, do you remember the 2011 one that hit the St. Louis, the airport terminal? And that was, I mean, it's kind of overshadowed by all the rest of the mayhem in 2011 too.
Yeah, I was about 2 years old then, so I don't really.
We think you're like 30 already, Beckett. So we'll probably ask you some silly questions. So it's the way you carry yourself. So that was a frightening, frightening night. Wasn't that a Friday
Yes.
night, James A?
It was a weeknight. I just can't remember. I think it was a Friday night. I think
It
you're
does
right.
seem like
Yeah,
it was.
I think it was. Yeah.
Well, all this weather stuff aside, what's your favorite restaurant on the hill in St. Louis, Beckett? Does your family have a favorite one?
No, I
No.
actually don't eat there that often.
Ah,
I couldn't either. Holy cow.
some toasted ravioli might be in your future. So
Yeah.
Harold pointed out his favorite one. We'll get it and pass it along to you. So are you studying any coding or anything like that? Are you interested in the programming side of meteorology, Beckett? Is
No, I have not gotten into coding yet.
okay. So well, this is just we're all so excited for you. I wish I'd had your bravery in 1980. All it took was one well-meaning weather service person to say there's a hiring freeze and you should find another field to get into for me to change, the thing that drove me most passionately through my entire life. So don't fall victim to that. I don't think you'll let that happen,
Mhm.
for sure. Obviously, you've been on the Weather Channel, you've been on Fox News or Fox Weather. What other things have you gotten to do? And did you feel the pressure of doing that? Did you walk away feeling like you did a good job?
Yeah, it's been definitely pretty nerve-wracking those couple of times. I've also been on the Stormfront Freaks podcast, which was really fun as well. But it's just been an honor to be on all of these channels and podcasts.
I bet Brady will be asking you to be on their Outbreak podcast here soon.
Yeah.
We had Brady and Serena on last week. I don't know if you
Mhm.
saw our WeatherBrains show from that, but they're
Yeah.
doing some cool things, and like you, they're following those responsibility guidelines, and
Mhm.
that's really important. Now, have you been storm chasing? You haven't? Are you getting into drones or any of that? Because that just seems like such a game changing tool for us to use.
Yeah, I did get a drone back for my birthday in October, and that's been really cool to use.
So you're going to take that sucker out and get above those trees there in Missouri and see some storms from
Yes.
from a distance. I'm tempted to get one and get it licensed and launch it out of my driveway so I can look to the southwest and see
Mhm.
what's coming, Beckett. It just the video coming out and I think it was Brandon Clement, maybe was
Mhm.
that right, in Southern Kentucky Sunday night, who was up above the trees. That video is just fascinating and spellbinding of that tornado east of Princeton, and Brandon does such a great job all the time, but that video was especially fascinating. So um, have you begun to think about monetizing what you're doing, Beckett? I know it's kind of early. You got plenty of time to think about it, but are you thinking toward a long-term goal of how you'll turn this into a career that will support your lifestyle?
Yeah, like I love to keep growing on social media, but I don't think I can actually get monetized till I'm 18. So, but yeah, that would be awesome when the time comes.
Well, I think you will be at the forefront of it when it happens. And I would encourage you, this is kind of self-centered, but if you get a chance as you're taking, I'm sure you'll be taking all the science you can get your hands on in high school. Look into the possibility of doing a science project because that has sort of dwindled as a process.
Mhm.
When I was around in 1979, it was a big deal to go to the International Science and Engineering Fair. It's still there, and somehow meteorology has just dwindled to almost nothing in it. So I would encourage you to find a way to change that. I think you're rooted in the research and the knowledge part of it enough that you could find some passion for you, turn it into a project, write papers about it. And I think it is one of the best things you can do. And I predict you'll be walking across the stage at the International Science and Engineering Fair in about 3 or 4 years. So talk to your teachers and see if you can look into that as a possibility. And speaking of that, how have your teachers supported you to this point?
Yeah, my teachers have been very supportive. When there's severe weather or snowstorms, they'll always be asking about it when I go to school. So it's been nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, what about your friends, your peers? What do they think? They think it's
Yeah,
pretty cool, or they think we're all a bunch of weather nerds? What do they say?
I think it's pretty cool.
That's great. And so,
Now,
how-
I got to say, guys, middle school was horrible for me. I hate it. I couldn't stand it. Now, I was a social zero. I mean, I was a total nub, a nobody. And I had some problems in our family. My father had walked away. I didn't trust anybody. I didn't want to trust anybody. And
right.
had very few friends. And I will say, middle school, it's brutal for kids. A lot of kids are bullied and they wind up going into therapy and they start dabbling into things. How was your middle school experience? And how do you balance all of this? It's hard. This is a hard age, Beckett.
Yeah, it's been pretty good.
So you've not been bullied then. That's good.
No, no.
Good. I can teach you how to throw a punch if you want me to. I mean, I don't think his
don't
mom
get
would
in
approve
trouble,
of that.
Beckett. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
get
No,
in
no, his
trouble.
is Gen Z just like really chill with people having really niche hobbies or something? Because I would have been destroyed. I was already destroyed for just existing in middle school. Is the same as you, James. Same. But especially if I'd been like in a very public way expressing my weather love. Oh my gosh. But that is an interesting thing. Do you feel like you're just kind of supported and people think it's cool?
Yeah, I feel like they're pretty welcoming to it.
That's
I guess so.
amazing.
You're a YouTuber, and that is not a small thing to sneeze at, Beckett.
Well,
You
my
know,
my kids are slightly younger than Beckett, and man, all they talk about is so and so and their engagement on TikTok and YouTube. And I mean, I bet they won't tell you, but they're probably insanely jealous.
I bet you're right. I noticed, Beckett, on your broadcast that you spent a lot of time talking about safety. So, how have you formulated your things that you're going to say to people in different situations because you're communicating accurately what they should do early, and that's such an important part of what we do.
Yeah, just getting down to the main point, get to the lowest level of your home if you don't have a basement, most interior room, and, not taking time to look, oh, is this really strong circulation? Just saying it if they're inside that tornado warning.
Well, if you haven't watched James A. lot very much, I urge you to watch some of his coverage because his coverage of the Claremore tornado on Saturday night was spectacular. James A., I've really loved watching your calm demeanor and approach this year in the couple of big events that you've had up in your neck of the woods.
Thank you. I'm just lucky. I mean, we talked a little bit about it last week. I've got a good team, and one of the options that we do more than a lot of other people is let the other person talk. And when Josh Johnson was on the show, who is spectacular at the tornado warning coverage, he said he likes to do that too because somebody else's way of communicating might resonate with somebody when yours doesn't. So we take that really seriously, and that gives me time to pump out social media stuff and look at radar, and because the radar stuff's kind of my jam, and you don't get a chance to dive into it while you're talking. So yeah, it's been a month.
Hey, let me ask a quick question, James A., while we're on the subject of TV coverage. I got aggravated by this, no siren thing and that Valley View tornado, and several people commented that there was not a single Dallas-Fort Worth station with live wall-to-wall coverage at that time. Is that true? I can't imagine that.
I can't either. I know when I was there, they really concentrated on the central four counties, and that was right on the Denton County line. So I can't imagine they weren't on. Maybe they didn't have a stream turned on or something, but I can't imagine they weren't on TV at that.
Yeah, some guy said there was a petition to, file some kind of FCC complaint or something, and I don't, I don't know, but I'm just seeing traffic coming in from social media. But of course, I was there, 100 years ago. But Cook County, and I'm the same way today. It doesn't matter, Cook, Denton, whatever. I mean, I just think surely this day and age, and what time of night was this? What time did it happen?
9:30,
8-ish.
10 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh, was it that late? I know it was before hours. So we kind of had some knowledge of what was happening down
I'm
there.
just trying to think, was there any big sporting event, or I don't know what would be on where they wouldn't want to, go wall to wall. But anyway, maybe we can get one of the Dallas Fort Worth guys on here and we can talk to them about it.
Is
But
Cook
have we had
County
anybody?
there? I mean, I don't know if Cook County might be Sherman Denison DMA
Sherman
and not.
Denison or Wichita
Yeah.
Falls? That's a good question because it's changed a lot. When I was there, we
Yeah.
had Love County, Oklahoma,
Oh,
in the
wow.
Dallas DMA.
Yeah.
I mean, it was different back in the 80s, but we ought to get one of the guys from Dallas to come on the show. I don't think
I'll do that.
James worked there and I've worked there, but it's been a long time, and it would be interesting to see how they handled that situation. And again, I'm not saying that what I'm seeing here is true. I'm just saying there's a lot of buzz about it for some reason. And I don't know, but every market
I was
is
watching
different.
a variety of YouTube sources. I'd spent some time watching, and then of course when it got into Clearmore, I switched over to James A immediately and started watching that because one of the chasers was kind of in that tornado in Clearmore.
Hey,
when I saw that, it got my attention.
Becket, when do you go live? What determines you going live on YouTube? When do you do it?
Usually when we're expecting pretty significant severe weather outbreaks.
Does it matter what part of the country?
No.
What's your record
So
time you've been on?
I think a little over 5 hours.
Oof.
And that was back in March, I think so.
you must have a bladder of steel.
Yeah.
And that's a good show title, by the way. Hurricane season's coming up. Will you do the long form coverage if a hurricane is approaching some coastal community somewhere? I mean, how are you going to handle hurricanes?
Yeah, I haven't done that before. I might do that this season, but I also, before the hurricanes hit, I do forecast videos. So I'm planning on putting those out this year as well.
And what happens when you're in school? Let's say there's a major tornado outbreak and you're in school. It's 12 noon. What do? Do you skip it and go home, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, so 2 times my mom has actually taken me out of school in the middle of the day, if it's in St. Louis. But if it's not, usually I just can't cover it.
Okay, but it's summertime, so you've got a few months here where that won't be an issue. And I wanted to ask another question too. Social media can be a brutal place. All the positives, it's marvelous, but at the same time, it can be brutal in that you deal with trolls and haters and know-it-alls. There is potential for a dopamine addiction where you cannot stop. And at your age, goodness, I don't even know if I could walk across the street when I was 14. I mean, I was not mature enough to handle any of this. At 14, how do you number one, do you have any haters? And if so, how do you handle them?
I don't think so. I've mainly gotten positive feedback on social media, so it's been pretty good for me on the socials.
Wow. That's
We're going to send Bruce Jones over there if you get any. He's our enforcer.
I'm not far from you. I'm not far.
Yeah, Bruce has a nickname, Moose or Rocco, either one. We'll send him over there, and we'll take care of any trolls. Do you find it? And again, I think it's important. We all have families, and we all have other things that we do away from weather. Do you find that this is distracting from your relationship with your family, or how do you manage your time, Becket? How do you do homework? I mean, you got to pull away from this sometime.
Yeah, if I have a lot of homework or something, I'll definitely prioritize that. But overall, I'm only down here for maybe a couple hours if there's something, going on. So it doesn't really inhibit on anything.
That's good. And tell us about your family. For those, I've had a chance to meet some of them, but tell everybody watching about your family.
Yeah, so I have one brother and then one twin sister. So, yeah.
Yeah. So who's the meanest? I've already asked him all these questions. Who's the meanest, you or the sister, your twin?
I don't know. I'd say it's equal.
No, he's being diplomatic here. It's clearly the sister. We all know that. The only problem, the meanest is typically the smartest, which is the only problem with saying that. But no, and so your brother, he's a knucklehead, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, every brother's a knucklehead. That's just the way it works. I mean, I'm an only child. I've never had one, but we've raised a couple of them, and I've watched the two brothers, and clearly they claim each other they're knuckleheads. But it seems like your priorities are very good and you're well grounded. And I just don't see that in many 14-year-olds. It's marvelous that you can pull that off. So, how do you think this is going to work through high school, Beckett? I mean, I would assume that you do. I never went to a prom, never went to a homecoming dance. I just worked. I would assume you'll be a little more well rounded. Do you play sports at all?
Yes, I play baseball and golf.
Yeah, we've talked about this. So I've already told Beckett all my secret signs. Two down anywhere in my body, he runs. Okay, if he's on first base, two down after the indicator, you run. And if I slap the inside of my thigh, that means plunk the batter if you're on the mound. Just plunk the guy, you know. But being plunked is part of baseball. But no, that's great. And you got listen. Don't listen to these knuckleheads on this show. You got plenty of time to figure out where you're going to go to college. Okay. I mean, you got plenty of time to figure this out. We'll all give you a pitch, but you got plenty of time. Don't feel pressure. And one more thing, Bill Murray, I was going to ask: do you feel pressure when you're on live covering a severe weather event? I mean, do you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders?
Oh,
Uh-oh.
yeah, for sure. I do sometimes. Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Mainly just, calming down a little bit. But overall, it's gotten better since my first live. I was pretty nervous, but it's gotten better. I've gotten better at it through time.
Well, just have fun, Beckett. That's the
Yeah.
main thing. You know, it's not going to be perfect every time, but it's going to get better and better and better. And I just admire you for your bravery and your intelligence and what you're doing. I hate Rick Smith is not here tonight. He was the person who came running up to me at the NWA in Kansas City and said, "You got to meet this young man, and we got to have him on the show." And I hate that he couldn't be here tonight. How's it been to meet Rick? I mean, Rick's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. So nice and really smart guy. And it's been nice knowing him and meeting him.
Good. Well, ask us some questions, Beckett. You got the floor here tonight. You got the WeatherBrains team hanging around, and James A wants to ask you another question. But let's you turn it around on us. Ask us some questions for a minute. You may not want to know anything we have to say, but
No.
fake it and come up with something. Anything you'd like to ask us.
What got you guys into weather?
Who wants to go first?
See, I don't think we've ever shared that on this
Yeah, I
show.
don't
We always
either,
ask
James
everybody
A.
else.
James A raised his hand. We'll go clockwise around my screen here.
Tornadoes, 1974, Tulsa, and flash floods. And then a year later, tornadoes, Tulsa, 1975, and then more flash floods. So Tulsa was kind of just the natural disaster center of the 1970s, I think.
It really was. Bruce Jones, how about you?
Wizard of Oz. They used to play it every year on television before
right.
VHS and DVD. They'd play it once a year on television. That was a must watch for me.
And that was a
year.
fairly realistic tornado for Hollywood standards of the time.
For 1939, no one had ever shot motion picture film of an actual tornado. And I say the tornado special effects in that movie are outstanding.
Yeah, just the tension of the family and all that. It reminds me of that famous painting you have back at home.
Yeah.
Bruce Jones.
Yeah.
How about you, Jen Nairmore? I don't know that I've ever heard what got you into weather.
Hurricane season, mid 1980s. We had just moved to Florida. I was 12 years old. Hurricane Gloria was my first real hurricane that I tracked. I went to the grocery store and picked up a little tracking chart. And as I mentioned earlier, would wake up in the middle of the night and track all the different points and watch Cantori because the Weather Channel had just started only a couple of years prior. But I was going to go to Florida State. I really wanted to do hurricane coverage and be in my yellow slicker and standing out there reporting it, along the coast. And then we moved to Pennsylvania. So I went to Penn State instead and then got interested in doing broadcasting there. So yeah, it was hurricane season, 1985, Hurricane Gloria.
Wow. Kim, how about you?
I feel like I've probably talked about this on the show. So forgive me, everybody, if you've heard it, but the 1990 Plainfield tornado outside of Chicago. I was a kid growing up in the Chicago suburbs nearby. So an unwarned F5 did it for me.
That was a terrible, terrible, terrible day. James Ben, I don't know we've ever heard it from you. What really got you? What I know you said a teacher influenced you early, but what made it weather for you?
May 27th, 1973, which was 51 years ago yesterday. I was ending my junior year in high school. My hobby was ham radio, which means I had a phone in my car. Oh, yes. This is before cell phones, and we
That
could
must have made you
communicate.
cool.
Well, to some degree. I was still a social zero, but obviously we were it. And there was a horrible upper end F4 tornado that came through a small town called Brent, which is south of Tuscaloosa, where I lived. And they had an urgent call for help. And I went down with the first crew, and we got in there quick. And I love weather. I wanted tornadoes. I wanted it to happen. And I never thought about the negatives, the human impact. And we got down in there in the darkness, the human suffering, the loss of life, the scent of death. To this day, I'll never forget that odd odor. And the first responders often talk about it, and nobody really knows what it is. It has something to do with sulfur and pine trees, and you can't really get it off for 3 days. But that event just altered my entire life. And then the next year, we had the super outbreak. James A. in 1974. And again, we were down here in the middle of that, and they gave me 3 days off from high school. I was a senior, and we were able to help communication needs in places like Ewan, Alabama, that was hit by an F5. And I thought the world was ending. The Brent thing was horrible in 73, but this thing in Ewan in 74, it was up there. Jen knows, goodness, Jen knows more about it than I do, but I lived it. And between the 73 and 74, you just kind of, I feel like I experienced that for some reason. I saw things a 17-year-old shouldn't see that night. But anyway, it laid the groundwork for what I've done for 50 years, still here.
Well, for me, Becket, it was all these legendary tornadoes that have hit central Alabama, all the time. My grandmother, she worried about them constantly. And she had a crawl space under her house on North 36th Street in Birmingham. And we would crawl under that house when I was 2 years old. And I can't think now of a worse place. Well, I can think of a few worse places, but I can't think of a much worse place to be when you're 2 or 3 or 4 years old than under a spider-filled, crawl space of a house, and not a good place to get anyway. So that's what led to my fear and fascination. And then Friday night, we have a hotel in Texarkana, and one of the team members' son is 10 years old, and he's petrified of the weather. And I've advised him. I called when I saw that tornado was going toward Texarkana Friday night. It was going to pass south of where they lived, and was able to communicate that confidently to him, show him on the radar. But he was just beside himself. So what advice do you give to your friends or, other family members or neighbors who might be afraid of the weather?
Yeah, so my friends overall, there's some things that they said that have really annoyed me a little bit. Like one of my friends actually has said that when there's a tornado warning, he doesn't even go downstairs. He just stays in his room. So I always tell them, you gotta heed those warnings and actually get to your safe spot. Even if, being a lot of QLCS lines coming through, a lot of times the tornado warnings, there's no tornado associated with it. So we have that problem in St. Louis. So a lot of people have just gotten used to just not even heeding the warnings. But, there's going to be that one warning that there's actually a tornado, and you want to heed them all.
And you don't want to be that guy. Tell him he doesn't want to be that guy for sure. Of course, you've got, the famous Ron Prespolinski, who passed away a few years ago, was in the St. Louis office, and there was nobody better at QLCS tornadoes and knowing about them and researching them and forecasting them than him. Have you gotten to look at any of his work?
No, I have not.
Well, look up. It's a hard name to spell. Once you master that, you can say about anything. And if you go to the NWA down in Irving this year, of course, they always have the Ron, which is in honor of him. So you always learn a lot. Sometimes we get to broadcast from there. Beckett, ask us another question. I know we're getting toward the top of the hour here, and we want you to stick around to the end, but we've been trying very unsuccessfully to make the show a little more concise. Maybe we'll do a little better job tonight, but you ask us as many questions as you want.
What's your favorite aspect of meteorology and why?
For me, it's hurricanes. I think it's just, terrible and fascinating. And, when you've heard about all these historic hurricanes over the years, and now we live through them, every 2 or 3 years, there's a really terrible one. I think those are the most terrifying and fascinating ones to me, even though they're slow and lumbering. And, having, gone with our friend Brian Peters down to the Mississippi Gulf Coast after Hurricane Katrina, I just assume we never have another one. And whatever we can do to, help people stay safe in those things. That's it for me. How about you, James Spann?
Snow, come on now.
Yeah.
Snow, let's do it. I mean, no. And listen, down here at this latitude, we don't have a lot of analogs. We're not that good at it. Or let me rephrase that. I'm not that good at it. I mean, and it's like you go to Seattle. They don't do tornadoes very well, and we don't do snow very well here. It's just the fact that we're not used to it, but. The fact that it's relatively rare at this latitude, when it happens, it is a heck of a challenge. It is a heck of a challenge. The science, the physical science, the social science, the communication process, the whole thing. It's an amazing case study. We've had tremendous fails here, huge fails. I mean, I thought I lost my job in 1982 after an ice storm that we didn't do right. And then we had the Snowmageddon in 2014 that we totally botched. And, to me, it's just a great challenge. And the main negative, it's going to be the vitriol, the hate that you're going to get. And it's coming. Even if you're right, it's going to happen. But to me, it's still the most fascinating part of what I do here. It's winter storms.
And James, it seems like it's been forever since we just had a good old-fashioned 4 to 6 inch snowstorm that was well forecast on a weekend that everybody could just stay home and enjoy it. Why don't we have those anymore? They all have to be hard.
Yeah, we had a good one up in the Tennessee Valley, Florence, the Shoals.
This year, that's true.
Back in January, they had a very good one there over toward Huntsville. In fact, I received over 15,000 videos and pictures from that. That was amazing, and that was a well forecast event. But yeah, Birmingham is not. You're right. So maybe this year we'll see.
Maybe so. Kim, how about you?
I have to say, my favorite part of meteorology is the people who are drawn into the field of meteorology. I just love the people. I don't know if it's that I just loved meteorology so much myself, or I just love the absolute obsessiveness, that comes with loving this. But I will never forget when I was an undergrad and I finally met other people who loved weather, and we just stand apart, in some special way, in our appreciation for so many little things. And it's just something that we all share. So while there could be difficulty sometimes among us, there's just also something really special about the people who love the weather.
And another one of those people is Jen Nairmore. Jen, how about you? I know what you're going to say, so go ahead and say it.
Really? Well, the word tornado is in my name here. Yeah, as the owner of Tornado Talk, it should be no surprise that I love learning about tornadoes, and it's a couple of aspects of it. I'm fascinated with what they do. It's when we go through our stories and we're trying to figure out the path and see what happened. It's fascinating. It's awful as well, but it is fascinating to see what these winds can do. But I've fallen in love with the people stories, and I think it's so important to remember your audience. When you're doing tornado coverage, you're talking to real people who are going through this event, and it's going to have an impact on their life for the rest of their life. And you're watching history in the making when you're doing the real-time coverage. And I think it's important as meteorologists, in whatever aspect of that you're in, whether it's broadcasting, social science, National Weather Service, emergency management, whatever, is to remember the people, and that they do go through so much and they can have PTSD for the rest of their life. And so when these storms are coming through the same areas, I was watching with Dawson Springs after 2021, and here is the tornado coming back through, and these folks, it's only a couple of years later, you have to remember that. But there are some amazing stories out there, and people want to share them. They want their voice heard. And I think it's truly by remembering the past and studying these stories that you can prepare people for now and the future. And really people can connect with their stories. And so that has become really my heart for, and this is what I will pursue for the rest of my life, is to try to tell as many stories as I can.
That's awesome. Bruce Jones, how about you?
Well, yeah, I'm like Jen. I'm fascinated by tornadoes, and I'll tell you the most mind-blowing experience for me was Becket back in the early 1990s. They had this big experiment called Vortex, and they sent all these vehicles out into the Texas Panhandle to surround tornadoes and get all of this data from tornadoes. And shortly thereafter, they looked at all the data, and Chuck Doswell, who was one of the leaders of that entire experiment, said basically, you know what? We're going to have to throw out what we know about tornadoes and kind of start over. And I think we all thought that experiment was just going to answer all the questions about why did tornadoes form? How come this thunderstorm did one and this one didn't do one? And yet it just opened up a bigger can of worms. So it's this fascinating puzzle, and we still don't know all the pieces.
And may never know all the pieces. That's for sure. James A., how about you?
I am in it for the anonymous social media comments. I think those are the best.
Yes.
I am fast. It changes. I love the fact that weather is different most every day, especially in the central part of the country and in the South. I think probably I'm mostly fascinated by the complicated interaction between humans and weather. How Saturday night we can have a tornado warning and we can be on the air and two different people can communicate, and humans listening, it can resonate more from one person communicating this warning than the other person. And even within one family, how it can be different, where, oftentimes kids are maybe more or less aware of that risk and how they prioritize it and its importance to make a protective action. It's just fascinating how complicated we are as human beings, and how that really, you see that play in with severe weather so often.
That is awesome, Beckett. You're really turning this around on us. It's very fun for us. So ask us one more before James Spann will ask you some hard question for the night.
All right. What are the main resources you guys use?
Oh, this is a good question. I've thought about this recently. I'm going to start off with James A. He always impresses me with his knowledge of radar, and I bet it's not a radar tool, but if it is, that's great.
Probably during severe weather, if that's the focus, I'm heavily Gibson Ridge Analyst Edition. And we even run it through a scan converter and put it on TV. So it can just do so many things that are just indispensable to the way we do radar analysis during severe weather.
That explains why you're so good at it, James A., because you focus on it. How about you, Bruce Jones? What's most important for you?
Well, I start every day with SPC, National Weather Service, the Aviation Weather Center, and the Weather Prediction Center. Those are my top four. Kind of get the morning briefing.
For a while here, you may be using the Space Prediction Center too.
That's right. Absolutely. Yes, that's a great one.
Those are great places to start. Jen Nermore, how about you? How do you start your days? What's most important for you for staying on
Coffee.
top of the weather? Coffee,
Yeah,
being
coffee to
caffeinated.
start. Exactly. Now, I was going to go the history route. The blue book is just out of reach. So, but I was able to grab the green one.
Yeah,
So this,
you might get a hernia picking up that
that's
green one.
right. And it's all torn apart and it's because it's well used, but significant tornadoes here, Becket. He's got the blue book out, which goes from 1974 to 2022. And then he'll have the next edition out in a couple of years. Thomas Gruzoulis. And if you didn't get a chance to watch our episode with him, it was really awesome. He's amazing. He's my hero. And so if you want to learn about any of the historic tornadoes, that's what you need to get. Other than tornadotalk.com.
Of course. How about you, Kim? What's your go-to source?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't just rely on my own interpretation of any particular layer of data or product. I'll look at things and then I'll think, am I crazy or is this happening? And then I'll go to Twitter, aka X, or Facebook and corroborate it with other bright minds. And I think then my source of preference is sort of an ensemble of machine and man.
Well, for me, it's a series of things. I've got Weather Message running over here. I love it. I'm about to have to recode all my sounds. It's going to give me a good chance to make sure it's telling me what I need to know when I'm not looking. Slack with the Weather Service is critical. It's on over here. GR Earth is on over here because I think that brings the satellite and the watches and the warnings and all that, the METAR data and different things all together. Like James said, I've got GR3 on a couple of radar sites and GR2 on a couple of others, and those are critical. And I'm beginning to increasingly love Radar Omega. I think it brings a lot of good tools together. And so those are the things that I like using most of all. I still love the old HerTrack program. I don't know if y'all even remember that. That program takes the NHC forecast and you can actually deviate it any direction you want. So you can be on either side of the cone with a forecast. And it really helps me keep our coastal hotels updated, with an hour by hour forecast of what to expect, interpolating all this data because it's kind of, sort of overwhelming to, pull all the HLSs and the tropical cyclone products together. And this just cuts to the chase and says at Mobile, Alabama, the gale force winds are going to start at 9 p.m. and the hurricane force winds are going to start at 2 a.m. And that gives me a lot of, confidence that the information I'm giving them is, down to the minute because that's what they want to know. The other night when I was able to give the all clear to Madisonville, because it was 4 miles south of them, they said all the guests in the lobby just started clapping, and they were like, we've never stayed in a hotel where somebody told us what to do. And, I was really proud of that because when I looked at first and saw that thing was going in the direction of the hotel, I get a sick feeling in my stomach. I start trying to call everybody I can get, my hands on. Got to let them know as early as we can because it's a big job to bring 70, 80 people into the lobby and it's no fun. That's a big, long explanation, but thank you for asking that question. James Spann, you answer it and you take us out.
So we're a Barron station. We use Barron's weather graphics display system for television, and obviously it brings to the table a lot of good tools for forecasting as well. It's a little pricey, Becket, for a 14-year-old, but they might cut you a deal. You never know. And I'm a Weather Bell subscriber. I was one of their first subscribers in terms of model output, and really a pretty good data set. I mean, you get a really wealth of information, and they keep adding products without increasing the price. So Weather Bell is important, and I'm a radar scope guy, but Bill, I almost downloaded that Radar Omega the other day. I was trying to, of course, that's a monthly thing, and I guess Radar Scope's a monthly thing too. But they had all these different price levels, and I was trying to see, what the Mac version does. Do they have like a free trial where you can try this thing out without being
Yeah,
stuck with a contract?
there's a one-time version and you don't have to subscribe. I think you pay $9.99 for it to start. And then it is helpful to pick one of those three levels. I think the alpha may be $11.99 a month. Now they've got some new thing and it's probably not really all that valuable, but some of the other stuff was kind of cool. You can add a radar sweep it's just a nice reminder for me that new data is coming in. It gives a little sonar sound as it's coming in and, updates the radar as as the data comes into it. So it is kind of cool. I think that gray background is one of the best, looking things for on air out of all the different things. But still my GR2 analyst is sitting over there running a 4-panel all the time because it's critical to me. And James,
the
to expand
baffling
on
thing.
what you said about Weather Bell, I think Pivotal Weather does a great job with those forecast soundings. Those are always extremely helpful to me. And then, of course, Tropical Tidbits. What Levi's doing is unbeatable in that space. And our friend, Mark Sudduth, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, love what he does. Didn't mean to interrupt you, though, James. Yeah, Tomer Burr.
No, I was going to say it is baffling when you start reading reviews of this stuff, these software reviews, but anyway, I probably will try that. But again, I love what Mike Wolfenbarger's done with Radar Scope. It's a great product. It's the baseline, I think, for all of us for the radar part of that. But yeah, for me, so it's Barron, Weather Bell, and Slack. When the Weather Service, Becket, are you allowed to be on the Weather Service Slack sessions at all? Are you involved in that?
No.
Okay. Well, I've invited you into ours. You can kind of see how it works for the Skywatchers down here.
Yeah.
Of course, we've had nothing. We've had nothing this year, which is good. But that communication process is just so much better. It is so much better from the old Weather Service chat, format that was getting unstable and not reliable to Slack, which is an enterprise system that's rock steady and we can share files and video and everything. So that's an important part of it as well. But we must take a break. We're going to go to Tony Rice and his astronomy report. We're going to come back and we might do an email or two, but I know we're going to bring in Bruce Jones and we'll talk about weather radio. We'll do picks of the week and much, much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center provides a number of forecast models each day. Many of us got a little more familiar with the 3-day geomagnetic forecast following those recent displays of aurora that was visible from across much of the country. That forecast, it focuses on the upper atmosphere, but there's another product that measures electrical current under our feet, and it's been pretty interesting over the past couple of weeks. Back on May 11th, the model map lit up with strongest current flowing through the rocks and soil along the U.S. eastern seaboard and the Midwest. This model was developed at the request of the power industry in collaboration between NOAA, the U.S. Geologic Survey, and Natural Resources Canada. Its data comes from 14 geomagnetic observatories located in places like Fredericksburg, Virginia, Fresno, California, Tucson, Arizona, and the Stennis Space Center down in Mississippi. These observatories, they're not equipped with telescopes, but are instead looking down and using magnetometers to measure variation in the Earth's magnetic field. Many locations also have other equipment installed, such as USGS seismometers and GPS reference stations that serve the National Geodetic Survey. In the days since that septuple whammy of coronal mass ejections would produce reports of aurora into Texas and Florida, several areas of the country have continued to glow on that map, including the entire Appalachian mountain chain extending into central North Carolina and down into northern Alabama. The West Coast is also still glowing a bit, from Seattle all the way down to San Diego and well into the Central Valley of California. You can see these current values, pun intended, by visiting the Space Weather Prediction Center website at swpc.noaa.gov. Click on Products, and then the link to the Geoelectric Field Model. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
Time to see if we got any email. The inbox just might have some activity this week.
All right, I got 2 emails for tonight. First of all, from Jess Kramer. Had a question about the tri-state tornado. Learning about it is what inspired my obsession with weather history. Jen, you're my heroine. That is so sweet. Thank you for saying that. Lately, I've noticed quite a bit of discussion on social media about it potentially being a family of tornadoes. Everything I've ever read about it seems to indicate that it was an unbroken straight damage path. What are your thoughts? I don't know. There is the debate. And so this is a tornado event, Jess, that I've not done a whole lot of digging on that I want to. It's one of those I think I'm so afraid I'm going to get lost and you won't be able to find me because I'm going to be digging so deep into some of this. But there have been a lot of great resources out there, and there have been a lot of folks who do say it was a continuous path. But one of the papers, this is actually going to be my pick of the week, is from a group of folks, including Chuck Doswell, Robert Johns, Don Burgess, Matthew Gilmore's, John Hart, Stephen Piltz, 1925 Tri-State Tornado Damage Path and Associated Storm System. And they do deep analysis on all the different segments and do believe that it was not a continuous tornado track. But the longest part, the main damage path, was 151 miles long from central Bollinger County, Missouri to the west edge of Pike County, Indiana. But there were some indications, and they just did a deep dive into the history of it. So we will attach that to the website with the pick of the week. But I would dig into that a little bit more and read that perspective. But again, I've run into other ones that say, yes, it was a continuous path. It's a very interesting and important historic event to look at. So thank you so much for asking that. And then for the next email, we'll throw out to anyone who wants to answer this. This is from Steve Holmes tonight. We have had days this month in which storms have gone ballistic well after daytime heating is done. How much does it have to do with the low-level jet? And what is that thing anyway? Who would like to define the low-level jet? Dr. James Aladon, maybe? You want to go for it?
I'll take a stab at it because it seems to be the nemesis of the Southern Plains, especially this year. So when the peak heat happens in the afternoon, everything's well mixed, the thermals and things like that. So when the peak heat relaxes, the atmosphere begins to slowly cool from the bottom down. You see the top of that a lot when you look at NEXRAD radars and you see that ground clutter ring really start to expand, because that's that temp inversion from cooling down from the bottom up. So you're reflecting some of the radar energy back into the ground. As part of that, because you're not mixed with the air that's close to the ground, the gradient wind has a chance to not be mixed with slower speeds close to the ground. So you oftentimes get this, what's called a low-level jet, really start to pick up after peak heating relaxes. And it usually maxes out mid to late evening. Of course, sometimes it can go like Saturday night and just keep going and follow a storm along. The storm just kept chugging along on the eastern edge of the low-level jet, it appeared. But yeah, that's my shot. I hope I did all right. Ooh.
Fabulous.
Pretty darn good.
I loved it. That was great. Thank you so much, everybody, for your emails. Email at weatherbrains.com, and we will at least try to get to you here on the show with the email of the week, or we'll try to answer to you as much as we can, your emails that are coming in. And please don't forget to sign up for the newsletter, too. That comes out Thursday morning. Amazing articles and history and astronomy stuff, recaps of the show. You can sign up on our website. Under our cute little faces, you can see the link to sign up for the newsletter. Back to you. Who's taking it?
I'll take it. I'll take it from here. It's that time of the week where we talk to our friend Bruce Jones. Bruce, this may be the last time we talk for the spring.
I think so.
It's always kind of sad to me. It's been such an extremely busy May. And all the meteorologists that I hear, wherever they are, whether they're on television or YouTube or wherever, they come to that bottom line. The most important thing that you need in your arsenal to be prepared for tornadoes is a NOAA weather radio, because that darn thing is going to wake you up. You can program it down to your county, and you're saying that in your next shipment, we're going to have partial county warning for some areas. Is that right? Fill us in. And I think we probably used up all of your allotment for the year of weather radios, probably, because everybody's been going down to the Walgreens and the CVS to get one. What do you recommend right now?
Well, thank you to all the TV meteorologists, the broadcast meteorologists, and guys like Becket Moore who understand the importance of, again, having multiple redundant ways to get warnings. And I've been a big advocate of NOAA weather radio for a long, long time. I just think radio waves are a very effective way to send out a signal. And these public alert certified weather radios were designed and spec'd by the Consumer Technology Association to be true life-saving devices with a minimum 77 decibel alert tone on them, and a port on the back where you can plug in pillow shakers and strobes for the deaf and hard of hearing. These are truly life-saving devices. But with all the tornado activity we've had, Midland for right now is sold out of the WR120 public alert certified weather radio. However, there is a container of 25,000 more soon to arrive in Kansas City. And these new versions, it's actually an upgrade to the software and some of the computer chips. This new version now, if you live in Jefferson County, Alabama, you program the radio for Jefferson County, and then you can go in and you can say Northwest or North Central or Northeast Jefferson County, Alabama. And the emergency managers this year, emergency managers across the United States are meeting with their local National Weather Service office to say, hey, I want to partition our county, and here's how I think we should do it. And National Weather Service adds their feedback. Here's what we think you should do in your county. And starting in 2025, the National Weather Service offices and county emergency managers will have the ability to send out these targeted partial county alerts. These messages, the tornado warnings, will be targeted in certain segments of the county after your county emergency manager agrees to do that partitioning. So it's really exciting. And these are the new radios that are coming in right now that have this on them. I'll be showing them at the AMS Broadcasters Conference. I've got one of them. And that's coming up in Myrtle Beach here in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And I'll bring some down to NWA in Texas as well. But it's, it just shows that the National Weather Service is always improving this system. They'll add new transmitters, they'll improve their transmitters, add backup transmitters, improving the communications from the National Weather Service office out to the transmitter site, and now instituting partial county alerting. So it's a really exciting time. So our promo code for midlandusa.com is still active. You could order one of these white desktop weather radios, and it's on back order, but you could order it and use the SPAN25 promo code. And when these new ones come in, you'll be one of the first to get the very first brand new versions of this white WR120 radio. The promo code is SPAN25, SPANN25. SPAN25 is the promo code you use at midlandusa.com. And this is a special WeatherBrains offer because we know you love weather. We know you love NOAA Weather Radio, and we've got this special offer for you. Again, it's 25% off when you use the SPAN25 promo code. And with hurricane season coming, if you live in any kind of a hurricane zone, or even 100 miles or 200 miles inland from a hurricane zone, I would suggest you have one of those emergency crank radios. So when the power fails for days or weeks, you have a radio that you can crank to generate power, listen to AM, FM, and NOAA Weather Radio. Also has a super bright Cree flashlight on it. So this 25% promo code is when you use SPAN25 at midlandusa.com.
I'm still steamed over that Fort Worth Star-Telegram article. No sirens before Valley View tornado. And to make a long story short, I don't get cranky here, but they implied in the article that the only warning local residents received, the fire department put it out on their Facebook page. Are you kidding me? Here's an idea. Everybody should have a weather radio in their home. What year is this? How long have we been preaching this? I mean, this is nothing new. That's the baseline. That is the baseline, a NOAA weather radio in your home. And of course, you need multiple ways of getting the warning. We all know that. And I know sirens serve a purpose, but their purpose is to reach a few people outdoors, not in your house, in a business, in a gas station, in a Jack in the Box or whatever. And I just don't understand this media fascination with no warning. It struck without warning. It's just what they say every time, like they're programmed to say that. And I just don't understand that. But anyway, enough of my rant. Let's move on to more pleasant things. Let's go to Picks of the Week. This is where we go around the horn. We share something weather related that is really cool. Becket will stall and we'll let you go last. Okay. So be thinking of a website, hardware, software, resource, anything involving weather. So Jen, let's go up to you. Give us something good.
Well,
What's your pick of the week?
My pick's going to be that article on the tri-state tornado with from Chuck Doswell and others on the damage path and the associated storm system. So check that out and look at all the details as they took that deep dive into that. May 4th, 2013 is when that was published.
Excellent. Again, we'll have all this on weatherbrains.com. James Adelot, give us a pick of the week.
There are so many I could choose from, but I want to ask Becket one more really quick question. Have you had any embarrassing moments on your live stream, like a dog barking or your cat just charging in, or maybe one of your siblings being disruptive?
No, not yet, but I do expect that to happen eventually.
Excellent. No, my pick of the week is there have been so many candidates from the past week to 10 days. But one of the things that I noticed on radar after the storms just got out of our coverage area, and we were still on for a little bit just from the social networking aspect of, hey, it's just over the border, but you know people there, so call them. In outside of Decatur, Arkansas, we had a cyclonic mesocyclone and tornado and an anticyclonic mesocyclone tornado occurring at the same time, and both were lofting debris up over 4,000 feet. So that is a big time significant tornado for an anticyclonic mesocyclone.
Yeah, that's just incredible stuff. And again, we'll put this up on weatherbrains.com. My pick of the week, it's a tweet from one of the NBC5 reporters about this young woman that was killed in Valley View in the tornado. She had a 15-year-old and a 9-year-old. All were killed, and they were in a mobile home. And it just goes back to what I've been trying to say, and we've all been trying to say here. It's so complicated, but we have to do better. And I see it's a disturbing trend. I see a lot of people that are trying to communicate weather information. When they talk about people in mobile homes, they're almost condescending. It's like, it's their fault because they're living in a mobile home. No, it's not their fault. Maybe it's our fault. Maybe we ought to be better. And I just think we ought to come together and do something in between a watch and a warning to help these people. But again, it's just another example of the issue that we're facing for people that live in manufactured housing. It's wonderful, affordable housing. It's life-changing. It's a good thing, but it's a death trap during a tornado, and we have to do better. So that'll be my pick of the week. Ooh, Troy, is that you on here? Look who just jumped online.
Yeah.
Troy?
And you're muted, Troy.
Are you?
Now, I had to drop in to see Becket tonight, and I apologize. I got busy with watching stuff to our west and briefing some people. So sorry I missed it. Good to see you, Becket.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Bill and I had a good time with, you all know this, but with Becket and his dad at Starkville at the Mississippi State meeting not too long ago. So we had the chance. Sorry,
You'll take him to the Little Dewey?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, Kim, give us a pick of the week.
Yeah, my pick this week is going to be about the historic tornadoes of St. Louis. I've got a great article from NCEI that I'll be sharing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Bruce Jones, give us a good pick.
Well, first of all, Becket, if you'll contact me at Midland Radio, I'll make sure that you get a weather radio for your home office there because you definitely need one of those.
I actually already have one, but thank you.
I was going to say, maybe you send him a crank one, Bruce.
Yeah. Well, you can always have more than one. It's fun to hear them all go off. Barnesville, Oklahoma got hit by a tornado recently. My mom actually spent some of her childhood in Barnesville. And I'll share an interesting fact. Barnesville, Oklahoma is the only town in the world that has an oil well in the middle of Main Street. So there's my factoid of the day. An
Wow.
oil well
Wow.
in the middle of Main Street. You have to drive around it. It's right out in the middle of the intersection.
America. I love it.
America.
Slightly cool. All right, Beckett, we've stalled long enough. Give us something really, really good.
All right. So I'd say the most incredible thing I've seen recently is the Windthorst, Texas tornado near Windthorst, Texas. It's very photogenic and cool tornado for sure.
All right. Well,
and you were all over that one on Saturday, Beckett.
Yes.
We'll search out some of the better pictures or video from that. Now we'll stick that up on weatherbrains.com. Troy, I know you just joined us. You want the foghorn?
No, I actually I sent something in.
Ooh.
I was going to have y'all use it, and I don't think anyone else had this. Anyone seen the video from pre-dawn this morning at DFW, the American Airlines jet?
Yeah. I don't know if that was AI. I don't know if that
was.
was fake or real. Was it real?
No, that's real stuff, and it apparently the
Wow.
plane was not secured. Apparently, and James, you could probably from Tulsa probably could answer this. I mean, isn't there a way to secure those jets a little more? Or they just, or in that kind of event, should they move the gate box back away from those overnight? Or
I don't know. And I don't know if that was a flight that was getting ready to board because the door to the cabin was open to the jet bridge too. I mean, it weather vaned right into the wind, which is what airplanes do when you take off in a crosswind. The airplane just weather vanes for the wind.
That's what James, a friend of mine, said today at the weather service down in San Antonio. He sent that to him. He says, well, the tail works. So
absolutely.
The tail does work on that airplane. Anyway, that's my pick of the week.
Yeah, that was just incredible video. All right, Bill Murray, go. Oh, Bill.
Hello, Bill.
Hello, Bill.
Sorry, I lost sound there for a second. I had to plug and unplug my headphone there so it would work correctly. Yeah, I'm gonna take the foghorn, James, just because I can't go a week without hearing it. And then I'll tell you about some of the great guests that are coming up. We've got Cameron Nixon next week. That show will be great. That'll be fun. Megan Williams going to join us on the 10th of June from the National Weather Service in Slidell and talk about a very devastating northern Gulf wake low that happened. And then Sam Lillo on the 13th. And the folks from the National Weather Service Warning Branch, Aaron Treadway and Keith Sherburne will join us on July 1st. And then I'm going to be filling in the dance card with all these folks that our esteemed host has been asking for in the last couple of shows. I'll make sure we fill out all those folks that we need to talk to, including those DFW Mets and some other folks. So y'all help me remember. But that's just some of the folks, James, that are coming up on WeatherBrains in coming weeks.
Excellent. All right, Beckett, this is your big plug segment. Plug away. YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebag, whatever you want to plug, go.
All right. On Twitter or X, I'm Moore WX Official, MOORE WX Official, all lowercase. That's my handle. And then on YouTube, Moore Weather, MOORE with capital M and then space capital W for weather.
Now are you on TikTok?
No.
No, that's good. Good. Are you a good dancer?
No.
No. No. It doesn't. You know the deal. What are the three things you get on TikTok when I open that thing up? They're either dancing, they're funny, or they're cussing. None of the three.
Yeah.
So I'm not much of a cusser, and I know all the words because I work in a news department. But I'm a really bad dancer, and I'm not funny. I'm not funny at all. So it's not a good place for me. But I will say I get more engagement on the only time I'm on the talk is if there's a big weather event, and I'll do a little briefing and do it in the TikTok manner. The engagement is unbelievable. The number of views and everything over there, but it is a very strange place. Well, Beckett, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks a lot. I know you. So you're out of school, right?
Yes.
Like, do you do anything for fun other than weather? I mean, what are you going to do this summer? What's your big summer trip?
Well, I'm going to that weather camp at Penn State here in the next couple of weeks, and then we're going to North Carolina in July, and then golf and baseball.
Golf and baseball.
Nice.
All right. So Jen, any advice on this the Penn State camp? Becket here?
No, I have never been to it. I did not go when I was young, but I've heard many, many good things about it. You learn so much, and you'll make lifelong friends there. It's going to be awesome. So I'm really excited that you're going to that, and that's great. And I love that you're a golfer. I played golf in high school. I'm not very good at all, but I love the sport. So I think it's awesome that you golf. That's great, Becket.
The only golf courses I play, they have pirate ships or windmills.
No, I was going to say putt-putt, 2-par. Yeah.
I can hit that thing a mile, but it never, ever, ever goes straight. Never. I mean, there's no hope in that. So, and people tell me I'm hitting like I'm hitting a baseball with a baseball bat, but I'll stick with putt-putt and tennis. But we got to go. For those that are new here, WeatherBrains is typically on the air every Monday night. This is a Tuesday night special because of Memorial Day, but we're typically on the air Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. And you can watch this live. There's a video version, youtube.com/WeatherBrains. But we know that most of you listen. However you consume it, we're glad you're here. And if you want to get in touch with us, anything we've talked about, have a question, zip it onto us. Email at weatherbrains.com. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week and God bless. All right.
Thank you, Becket. Give our best to your family.